And today, what we're gonna do is actually go ahead and okay. So today, good amount of hands-on we're gonna do. We're gonna create a version for ourselves. But before we do that, let's. Uh, we did create two versions for ourselves. Was it this one? No. FlexGun is the one that we are using, right? Yeah. So
Yes, Rohan.
okay, I think I used it already, but that's okay. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna navigate to our one second. I did show you guys how to create the custom version, right? Like the rule based and the object
Yes,
based.
yes, we did,
Yes,
Rohan.
yes, yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I was like, maybe I'm just blacking out. So does any one of you can help me with the name I used to create those versions?
FlexCon only.
No, but FlexGun is something I used earlier, but that's okay. So let's run this.
Onboarding for FlexGun.
No worries. We'll create one more and we'll look into that. So business process definition in use. Now, before we, create something of our own, we need to understand what we are creating, right? So we're going to use onboarding as one of the examples, and we're going to read everything that we have in the onboarding business process. All right. Now, if I open this up, if I maximize this, let's just read through each and every step that we have. Okay, you have the column step. Now, anything that you need to change in any of these steps individually, you will use this column and you will use the related actions from that step. For example, if you want to add an additional another condition, you can do that by going to the related actions menu, business process, and maintain step conditions. There are many other options as well. You can add in a help text. A help text is nothing but once an end user runs the step, they will get that as an instructional information. You can add a step level override. If you don't want the user to see this as a complete federal holding with the elections as the name in their inbox, you can give it a different name, right? So there are multiple things that you can do here, right? But this is specific to this step only. If you want to make this change to this step as well, you have to do that again by going to the related actions and taking that particular action. In real world, we really don't use any other steps, any other options that we have here other than the business process. That is the only one that is the most common in use, right? Then comes the order. Is a business process is always executed in a particular order. In this case, it will start with step A. Every business process start with step A, which is the initiation step, right? Then you will have, it will trigger B, then it will trigger B1. Likewise, then it will trigger C, and then it will trigger C1, so on and so forth. There are other ways of ordering as well, mostly in alphabetical and alphanumeric as well. The more complexity we want to add, we can add more combinations of alphabets and numericals, but we will keep it as simple as possible. The next column is if. This is where we actually add our entry conditions, which we talked about yesterday. The difference between entry and validation conditions. Okay, so entry conditions, it has to be true for the process to enter this step and execute it. If it's false, it will move on to the next step, right? These are Workday owned. This comes from when using a particular type of action or a particular type of task. You can create your own and add it here. Okay, the type, in this case, it's mostly action, but when we design our own process, we'll have some tasks, we'll have some questionnaire step, we'll have a checklist as well. So we'll see into that, what kind of steps we are adding. In the specify section, this is at the time of updating the business process or modifying or creating the business process. This is when we select the type, that is when we add this as well. So if it's an action step, you'll get a list of action steps that you can that you are allowed to add on an onboarding business process. All right. So this is where we add that. If it's a task, you won't find a specifier. It will be added somewhere else. If it's a complete questionnaire, then the step would look differently. All right. Optional column, it allows user to mark a particular step as skip or not skip. If you want to skip a step, you mark it optional. This is a checkbox actually. If you enable that checkbox, you'll get a yes. Right now, all of them are disabled. It's disabled by default, but if you want to enable it, you can mark it as yes. Right. Then group. This is where you add in the user, basically the security group, who will be responsible for that particular step. Right. If you Workday does not allow you to save the step if you don't have a user. And the user added here should definitely have the right security to make those change or to basically take an action on that step. All the other ones, you don't need to worry about. We will not cover those in this course, and these are not really used and creates a lot of confusion. So we're not going to touch those. Right. Now, discussing all that at a high level, let's come to these tabs. We'll quickly walk over these and then we'll design our own process. Right. Business process step, this will give you all the steps and what those steps are, the complete blueprint of your process. Notifications are of two types, system notifications and custom notifications. There are no custom notifications added here. We'll add them ourselves. So custom notifications are something which are not Workday delivered, but even if they're Workday delivered, we can disable them. If you see this button here, you can disable them and create a business process notification for that step and add in the relevant information, because these notifications go out like just a standard line that this has happened, please take an action. Very, very blunt notifications. But some notifications require a good amount of information to be shared, and that this employee took this action. The next steps are these, etc., etc. So in that case, we add custom notifications, right? We'll also learn how to do that. Allowed actions by rule. This is a list of all the action steps, all the action type steps which you can add in your business process. So all these action steps that you see here, all these are coming from this list. Nothing outside this list can go in the business process steps. And let's say if you use this one, Workday will automatically attach this particular condition for that step. So it always gives you mandatory entry conditions, also gives you what security is allowed to take that action. Like if I look at edit government ID, the other day it was not giving us the right. You see, employee self was not added. We added it yesterday to make sure that it does not give an error going forward, right? Now, if I want to add passport and visas, there's no security added here. So if I want to add this into my process, I'll first change the security and then add it into my process. Likewise, you have allowed services. Now, these services are Workday delivered service type steps, like create Workday account, document retrieval, document delivery. I don't know what these are, but these are service type steps are Workday delivered, like create Workday account, reset Workday account. These are some things which we usually set at higher. Some service steps we set at terminations is automated leave processing or disable Workday account. So Workday does it automatically. All you have to do is add that step into the process. And that's all. And Workday does the rest. So there are some service type steps. These are Workday delivered again, which you can directly use in your process. And related links, if you have any external links you want to add in your onboarding, like your internal company page, internal career page, or internal company site, you can add the link at the time of onboarding. Employee can navigate to look at their benefits information or any kind of allowances that they're getting, or it could be any information that they need, right? Or you can add in the link of any trainings that they want to navigate to. You can add them here, but don't confuse it that they're actually triggering any initiation of the training. We're just giving the link which will help them navigate to the portal where the trainings are. Okay. Available rules and field, this is a big list. You don't need to worry about this. So let's get to that. Now, what we're going to do is we actually going to design a business process of our own. Now, I already have one designed here, but we're going to make some changes to it. So what we'll do is we'll design it again. Okay, so we have the order, we'll have the if condition, we'll have the type, we'll have the specify, then we'll have the optional, and then we'll have the, okay. Now, your responsibility, you are an HR person, you are an HR leader, and your responsibility is to give the best user experience, the best onboarding experience there is for a new hire. All right. So what would be the steps that you would like to add for any new hire? This is a brainstorming session, so everyone needs to participate. You can raise your hand. I think all of you have, I've given all of you the unmute thing, so you can unmute yourself and go ahead with your answers.
Could you please repeat your question, Rohan?
Absolutely. So you are a business leader, you are an HR leader, and your responsibility is to design the onboarding business process and give the end user, the new hire, the best onboarding experience. Right. So what would be and also you need to be careful that you're doing this onboarding to collect relevant information from the new hire. I can start with like there's always an initiation step, which will be of type initiation, and then like starting step B, you might want to have like emergency contact information, right? Somewhere down the line, you might wanna maybe collect
Collect his W2s.
Basically, we collect employee information sheet in which he gives all the contact details. Basic demographic details will be there in the information sheet, right, Rohan?
so demographics can be considered as personal information.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So personal information,
First name, last name, surname,
everything, date of birth, ethnicity,
date of birth, ethnicity, SSN.
Yeah.
His
Yes.
contact
Legal
number,
name,
email ID.
employers.
SSN would be like it's like a government ID. So we'll add in a different step for that.
Rohan, legal
Email
name
ID?
and preferred name is something employees are really concerned about always.
So that would be covered in your personal information.
Okay.
Or if you want to add it as a different step, you can still add it. Let's do that. All right. Maybe something called as maintain names.
So, Rohan, apart from that, we also give a temporary ID to the user. Now, this temporary ID is like not a permanent one because we are not sure by whether this user will be joining the organization or not. But this temporary ID serves a purpose wherein we will know that this user data exists with this ID in the system for our record purpose. Then we also give him project information that possible which project he'll be working in. So ID information and uh, his reporting manager details to whom he'll be reporting once his onboarding gets complete by next day.
So let
To
me
add to that, Rohan, buddy details maybe.
Yeah.
I agree, but what I'm asking you, let me put the scenario in a better format is
We are collecting information from the employee now.
yes, yes. So
Yeah.
this is something.
I-9 form.
Yes, I-9 is a good example. Let me
I-9.
Yeah, I-9. And
But,
then
to
previous employers.
your answer,
Yes,
like this information is already existing, right? The person is hired, and in real world, there's something called as onboarding setup, which is also a business process which is triggered by a manager, in which a manager sends a beautiful note to the new hire that welcome to the team, etc., etc. And this automatically lists all the colleagues, all the reporting for that particular manager, right? So a lot of it happens outside, but the connection, or because you cannot define what project you are working on in the system. Workday does not have that capability, right? So that happens outside the system. What we are trying to achieve here is, let's say you are a new hire in the system. You obviously want to know what project you'll be working on, who your teammates are, but this onboarding is primarily to extract information from you about yourself, right? Not about your background. Please be mindful that all your background verification, all your job verification, your criminal history has already been taken care of at the time of hire. This is something, if you are a new hire, Abhishek, what information company is asking out of you, and also making sure that this is not something that is, any kind of trouble and giving you the best onboarding experience. And because all of these information is going to be used by some or the other team, cross-functional team, in some or the other way. For example, you need to provide them with the bank information, your bank details, where your salary is credited. That is very elementary for any payroll team to get the information at the right time. So if you think in that sense, then your answers might be going in that direction. What you're saying is absolutely correct, but that is mostly taken care outside the system.
Rohan, here PF details, because these days the PF details, they get carry forward and unique identifier number remains same. So that would be their nomination details, and probably mediclaim or mediclaim or insurance details, who would be added as family.
Correct. So we can add like benefit elections.
Yeah.
So it's a US specific term, but this would
Right.
take into account the insurance for people outside US as well.
Mhm.
And maintain payment elections ask you about all your banking information.
Direct deposit forms.
Exactly.
Right.
Whether it's a direct deposit, whether it's a current, it's usually in the US, it's all current account. But if it's in the India, it's all savings account or salary accounts.
Mhm.
Right. So all that will be taken care. And about the PF, I don't think Workday has yet added a feature for adding the PFs. I know like one of my colleagues working on that sometime last year. I'll check with him if the
Sure.
PF is still something that we can add. So yes.
About
3 days after
compensation.
the hire, e-verify should run, Rohan.
So e-verify is something that okay, so tell me, who does the e-verify, whether it's the employer or whether it's the employer?
employer has to run the e-verify based
Correct.
on the information employee provides in I-9.
Exactly. So once the employee provides the I-9, and e-verify would be after that.
Right.
So this is not an action that an employee has to take,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So this will not be part of this process, because
Correct.
user is doing the onboarding, and that information in whatever format is used by the employer, then they take that action.
Yes. Okay.
Benefit plans.
So we have added here benefit elections. We can
So
add-
about compensation.
Sorry? What's that?
Compensation plan.
The
Employee
employee
will
is
not
already
have.
hired. So
Oh, okay.
compensation
Yeah,
is
yeah.
already set.
Right. Right.
Rohan, in ours, we were asked to update our resume on our personal account.
You can do that. That can be added as part of your personal information.
But
Or-
I think, Rohan, the CV will get added at the time of onboarding or recruitment process. I mean, talent acquisition will do that as a mandatory process before we hire the person in the system.
in most cases,
That
yes.
that happens only if you're using Workday even for talent acquisition. If you're using Workday only for particular modules, then that is not necessarily
Resumes
included.
are usually not flown from even from your Workday recruiting to your worker profile. If again, that's a business decision. If you're using Workday recruiting, it's a business decision whether they want to attach the resume that was submitted by the candidate who is selected to be hired, if they want to keep that resume on the worker profile. Because recruiters can go in and access the recruiting database anytime and can pull that. But if you put that on a worker profile, it will be available on a worker profile as well, though will not be visible to everyone, to a certain group of users. But again, that's a business decision. In case you're not
Rohan, how about W4 form?
W4, yes, something that employee has to fill in as part of onboarding, but I'm not adding it here because that's mostly US specific.
Mhm. Okay.
And it's a long process. You have to add in a lot of information in that form.
Right.
What about certificates and trainings the person has done in the past, which could be beneficial while that profile gets built up in the future?
They can add that later into a user profile. So if I log into the tenant, let's say, I don't know if it would be set up this way in this tenant, but let's see. So let's say if I navigate to any user, there should be something like in this overview, in the additional data, you can add in multiple information. I know this is not something which you would use to. This is something obviously some testing, but like in the career section, you can have individual thing, but this is specific to your talent management. You can have your certifications added, your trainings, your learning competencies, etc., etc. But again,
This is where we were asked to add our background and resume.
you can, but not necessarily. You need to
Yeah,
do
it is
the
not a compulsory.
learning management and talent module along with the succession planning if you want the complete experience from that. But that would not be something done at the time of, see, you are a new hire, right? You have already gone through multiple interviews, you have already invested a good amount of time in it. And now at the time of onboarding, if they're asking you to upload your resume again, that would definitely not be a good user experience. If I would have been your place, I would like, don't they trust me already? Have I not like proven myself already? So all we need is the information that from the user that we can use, that the other teams need, to get started with that user and to get them onboarded correctly. All this resume information can be taken care at a later stage.
How about
Profile
the electronic
picture,
signature?
Sorry,
profile picture, so that the ID and everything could be taken care
good
of.
one. Change my photo. Someone said some e-signature.
Yeah, I said e-signature. Collecting e-signature from the consultant.
For that, right? So we can definitely have like a review document step,
Right.
like a policy acknowledgement.
Mhm.
You can put it in
Yeah.
that words as well. There's a lot of policies depending upon if it's a product company or a service-based company. The policies change dramatically.
Yeah. Employee handbooks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So employee.
Any of the NDA forms or
Yes, that can also be added in here. So all that can be categorized in this particular part.
documents? Okay.
Yeah, you can have it as multiple steps. I've seen all specifically in the US, what they do is they have individual steps for each of the documents.
Mhm.
But for other countries where these documents are not of that importance, you just club them together in one step, and this worker has to acknowledge all of those.
Rowan, grade level designation will be part of his personal information or?
No, that would already be decided at the time of hire, Abhishek.
Okay.
Right? So you're already a new hire, so you know what your salary is, what you accepted the offer letter to be at. Right? So that's already decided. Okay? So I think this much information is enough to get started to give a better user experience. Now let's say if I order it as A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J. Okay. So now what we're going to do is change my code, right? First of all, we're not going to mark anything as optional. Maybe few of them. Let's say change my photo is an optional one. We can mark it as optional, right? And the order of these steps makes a big impact on how the onboarding experience will be, right? If I order it in this way, then after A, it will trigger B, then it will trigger C, and so on and so forth. So after each and every step, worker will look into the inbox and then see that steps. What if I club similar types of steps together? For example, all the contact information and personal information, like all of these, what if I club them together in step B? So that way, just color code it.
They are triggered at one time.
So all of them will be triggered at once, correct?
Mhm.
Another thing, something called as parallel step inbox order, right? There's something called as parallel step inbox order. You won't see this on most of the business processes. It's only on very few. Onboarding is one of them. Now, if I want to trigger all of these steps together with this parallel step inbox order, I can actually also define in what order these steps should look into your inbox. For example, if I want personal information to be on the top, even though I've listed it like this in my parent process, if I want this on the top, I won't see the parent process. That would be confusing. But if I've defined it in the same order in my business process and I want personal information to be on the top, I'll put it as B.
B1.
No, B1, no. That does not
Okay.
work in parallel. That works in the order step. I'll come to that in a minute. Then if I want my names to be configured properly, I'll mark it as BC. And then if I want my emergency contact, I'll mark it as BB. And last but not the least, oh, sorry, this should be BC. This should be B. Now the parallel step inbox order works in a reverse way, right? The one which has the highest order will be be presented once at the top. In this case, out of these ones, BD is of highest. So this will get on the top. Next is BC, next is BB and BA, right? Another way of doing it, if I don't want to use it, is I can mark it as B1, B2, B3, or B4, right? But in this case, the only caveat here we have is they will still be triggered one at a time. Right? It will trigger B1 first, then B2, then B3, then B4. My goal is for them, all of them to be triggered at once and then shuffle the order. I see there's a question there. Want to know about gratuity. So gratuity, Shravan, is something that I think is discussed at the time of offer letter. I've never been in an organization where they have discussed gratuity with me. Or maybe this is the company where I'll have to discuss. It's been more than a few years I'm part of the organization, but not very familiar with the concept of gratuity. I just know that you get a good amount of money once you leave the organization. But I think this is something that is discussed at the time of your offer letter and something like that. And I'm not sure even at every level if this gratuity is enabled. So maybe not something part of onboarding. I hope that answers your questions. Okay. So now I want the order to be in the way that we decided. BD, I want the personal information, then I want the names, then I want the emergency contact, and then I want the IDs. Right. Now I can put this as C, D, E, F, G. Now let's say I want the change my photo. I've already marked it as optional. I9 is important. as manage payment election. So let's say if I want to club these together, I can do that. Alright. And then maybe put in a different color. And I can, let's say I want the bank information first. So I'll mark this as CB and CA. Right. So this parallel step inbox order help you to shuffle the way you want the inbox by the name itself. Inbox order you want the way to be. Right. I can again change this to D, E, and F. So benefit elections is something that a user can add to later stage as well. So let's change my photo first, and then maybe review and acknowledge policy, because benefit election is not something you're expected to do in one setting. There's a lot of, specifically when it comes to US, you have the FSA, you have the HSA, you have the dental, vision, medical. I was part of the testing for all of those, so I remember it very clearly that yes, there's a lot of combinations and permutations that you can use when selecting your benefit election. So nobody expects you to finish the benefit elections on the very first day of your onboarding. So that's okay. So we'll keep it at the end, right? But at least we are capturing all the required or the important information in the beginning, right? With that, let's go ahead and design our process. But before we do that, any questions anyone has on what we just did? And obviously the group would be employee as self.
But Rohan, there was a question on gratuity. Gratuity is in employee benefits India, right? In USA, is there anything similar to gratuity? I mean, because I have heard about death gratuity, during any incident occur when they are working in the working condition.
That's worker
where
comp.
they are working.
That's worker comp.
Worker comp. Yeah.
In the
So
US, that's worker comp.
So the gratuity, what was asked is actually in India, but in USA, is it termed that way, or probably it is termed in a different way, right? Because in gratuity, if I'm right, correct me if I'm wrong, there won't be any contribution from the employee, right? It would be only the employer.
Yes, that's. I think you're right about it, and I never thought it that way. I don't know what's it called in the US, or even if they have a concept of gratuity.
In
Yeah.
US, there is no concept of gratuity, actually.
Right.
Oh,
And
okay.
I haven't heard it.
What happens to like people who leave organizations after so many years?
So it depends on company to company. If the benefits are mentioned in the benefits, it is there. But generally, the gratuity component is not there mentioned in US payslip.
It's
Rohan, there
written
is something-
it's written final settlement. Where
But
you
that
get
final
whatever
settlement, I think, is mostly on like if you have any
payment dues.
Leaves that gets carried
Yeah,
forward if you have, if you can
encashed.
encash
Yeah.
those. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we don't have anything
Yes.
called gratuity in specific. Yes, like PF, we have here 401 where we can
401 is there.
have
yeah.
the option of increasing it so that the employer also would contribute equally there.
But
I mean,
401 is similar to what we have PF in India, right?
yeah, exactly.
There's an
Nothing
employer
related to the
contribution.
gratuity. We don't have anything.
And you get to transfer that 401 from one company to another once
Yeah.
you switch, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
Only thing is like life insurance and all, most of the large companies, they'd cover it completely from the company's end. Other medium-sized companies, they would, those are the benefits that
Is it?
the company would give.
Wow. Even though
Life insurance, like if anything happens on during an accident or anything, we get benefit through insurance.
No, for the US, definitely it's all covered. But there is some employer contribution in that. Like mostly it comes from the employer, but there's some component which comes from the employer as well, right? Every month.
we are 75-25. That is the percentage in many companies.
Or there are different plans. If you want to upgrade your plan for the premium ones, you need to pay from your pocket. Yeah.
Cool. So yes, but in some or the other way, it's mostly the concept of your benefits, the concept of how your leaves are maintained does remain the same. Even in India, if you're leaving the organization, if it's like an annual leave balance that you have, you will get paid out, right?
Right.
But if it's like a sick leave balance, obviously they get, what do we call, what's the right way? Vanished? No, they will be dissolved. I think that would be the right way. So, but other than that, when it comes to onboarding, the experience, always think, see, very recently, and this is something that might be, I could have talked about it at a different time, but I think the right now what we're discussing is very, very important. And the point I'll say, please always remember as a consultant, okay, when you're working in the Workday ecosystem, I've already shared it multiple times that whatever solution you design, whatever solution you architect, it has to be scalable, it has to be efficient, right? But one more component I recently realized based on all the things that I've been experiencing is your solution even acceptable? That is very important. Like, you know that you are the technical person within the Workday ecosystem. Okay, so that does not mean that if there is one way of doing a particular thing in Workday and there's no other way, and that is the only solution, and you become an adamant person about implementing that solution. No, if the business does not see any value through it, then yeah, don't implement that. Don't push it on the business that this is something that you have to implement. Because a lot of time you will also experience, I have also been in that phase, is when you are into this ecosystem for a couple years, and it happens every other year, right? You always become so excited about the engineering piece of it. And when we talk about the engineering side of it, means the implementation, the designing, the solution creation of it, that you forget the value add, that is it adding any value to the organization? If it's not, then think of a different way, think of an alternative way. And this is not specific to business process or onboarding, this is in general. And I've been experiencing that, knowing that, you have worked in this ecosystem for so many years, and still if you design a solution which is not scalable, which is not efficient, forget about accepting it by the business. So you need to have these 3 check marks, and you can definitely put around a story in any interview question, any scenario based question in an interview, that how would you design a solution, or what would you do in such scenario? You can put these keywords that as a consultant, I first think when I sit and architect the solution is whether it's scalable and efficient. Now, when I reach to that point where I'm confident that it is scalable, it is efficient, it is easy to use. The third is whether it's acceptable, and that acceptable is nothing but your user experience. If the your end user in every case is your employee, your company employee, is not enjoying, is not, you know, finding it easy, the solution that you design for them, then it will not be accepted. Teams, big organizations are these days focusing on, like I think I shared that previously as well, big organizations, small organization, all organizations are now focusing on customer experience very, very thoroughly. Previously, organized before Workday era, organized used to have 100 different tools. Even IBM had about 120 plus tools to manage different sites, one for time or one for time tracking, one for absence, one for payroll, right? So a lot of these companies used to do that. And now with Workday in place, if you're not, and still today, Workday is not the best in every side of it. But Workday is not the worst, or Workday at least is above average than most of the other tools. I'm not decomprehending any of the tools here. Please don't get me wrong. I'm just saying that Workday has done a great job in pulling all these systems together. So in an interview, if anyone asks you that what would be your approach? This would mostly be an answer to a scenario-based question where you'll be asked a certain scenario and you would have to give them an answer and how would you work? What would your approach be? So always use these keywords that is the solution, is the architecture of my solution scalable? If it's scalable, is it efficient? If it's efficient, is it easy to use? Does it give you the best or at least a good customer or user experience? Or maybe use the word employee experience, right? So there might be question coming in, how would you do a CI/CD work? Now CI is continuous improvement, CD is continuous development. I remember this question because this was a question that was asked to me back when I was in the US, is how do you maintain the CI and CD? I still don't remember the answer, but I think I can very well answer it right now. So your continuous improvement, your continuous development always continue to work in parallel. Let's say you have designed a solution. Let's talk about this onboarding process itself. I know we are going a little off track, but I think this is important. So I'm sharing real-time experience with you. You are in an organization, you have designed this onboarding, or let's say you did not design it, someone designed it. Now you are the new person who is responsible to manage it, update it, and modify it as per the new requirements. Your organization has grown threefold from the last year that you joined in, right? So a lot of things will change. So as part of your continuous improvement, what you do is you review and recommend. You review the existing configuration and you recommend solutions. That how can you modify as long as the solution is working, you're not having any issues, don't touch it. But as your organizations continue to grow at a good pace, things start to fail, things start to fall out of cracks. So that is when you jump in and you do a review and recommend. That is called continuous improvement, right? You review the existing configuration on what area it's breaking, what area it's failing, and then you recommend a scalable solution. All right. And in parallel, a continuous development, you also have to design your solution in a way that you do not have to stop the existing usage of the solution that currently exists, and also in parallel develop the new solution, right? So it's like you're architecting a bridge between two sides. All right, so let's say between New York and Manhattan. Oh no, I'm sorry, between Manhattan and, give me another name, the bridge which it's connecting.
Staten Island.
Staten Island. All right, so you're designing a bridge between Staten Island and Manhattan. So there's already a bridge existing, but it's 100 years old, right? It's falling, it's not safe for people. Now you have to design a new bridge. For that, you first need to find an alternative way that you need to at least, put band-aids on the existing bridge so that it holds off until the new bridge is completed. Right? So once the new bridge is completed, then you disregard that solution. And then that is called as continuous development. So at any point of time, the customer experience is not affected by it. In fact, it enhanced. With the new bridge, people are using the new roads, wide roads, a better view and everything. So you need to focus on CI and CD, some keywords like continuous improvement, continuous development, scalability, efficiency, acceptability. So just throw these keywords at the interviewer and you'll be golden in the call, trust me. But don't use them anywhere and everywhere. Think about the question, always listen to the question, what they are asking. All right. It's a good practice to prepare your answers, to be very confident, but don't cram your answers in your head. It's like reading a paragraph and then you just crammed it and you spoke it exactly the way it was in an interview. That is not the way it's going to work. We'll have to listen to the question, be aware of what's happening around you, specifically in the sense whether it's a panel interview, whether it's a one-on-one interview, it's a behavioral interview, whether it's a technical round, right? So you don't need to cram up your answers, you need to practice them in front of the mirror. I know, sounds silly, but it's the most effective way. Stand in front of the mirror every day for 15 minutes and practice the answers to questions, specifically to the scenario behavioral based questions. Use the PRAM tool every single day. Pick up the questionnaire sets and practice those questions. And trust me, it's going to help. All right, coming back to onboarding. Everyone awake? I hope nobody slept.
Rohan, I have a question. In this scenario, we are trying to bucket things. So in a real-time situation, do we get any information or do we refer any documents how to bucket things together?
Not exactly. It will be, let's say, when you join an organization, the first thing you have to do is ask for any documentation that any previous consultant left. Unfortunately, in most cases, there will be no document because we consultants are not in a habit of documenting things. Same like engineers. They develop things, they create things, but they don't document it. A bad habit, I know. That's why we have business analysts. They do it for us. So if there is no documentation, that's okay. You can definitely connect with your manager or any senior person in the Workday team, in your Workday team, and sit with them and architect the solution. And or if you have a new requirements, discuss those requirements. Make sure you cover every aspect of the requirement and get an approval. So the best way is to get a BRD for everything. Even for a smaller project like updating a step, get a BRD, a business requirement document, so that whoever requested it confirms that this is the requirement. Whoever is working is will confirm that this is something that can be done and define a timeline, define the scope. And when it's done, you go back for to the user, they test it out and they sign off that yes, this tested, this is working. So everything is documented there. That way you have your own credibility that you delivered a solution in time based on what the requirement was. And also the user is happy that what they need, they have it. But yes, that documentation is a little administrative, I would be honest with you. And I sometimes also slack out of it, but it's important. It's important. And another point to say in interviews that you always document your work. Trust me, you just say that, you always document your work, you'll be platinum, not even gold. They need people who can document things. But put it at the right place, like answer it at the right way. Okay. All right, so let's go about designing our process. So let's navigate to our business process for onboarding. We'll create a version of that. All right, so we'll go to the related actions of the business process. Since we already have something created on FlexCon, which I was testing, so I'm going to use a different organization. Before it's going to create a custom version. Okay, we're going to use a business object base, and I'm going to use Soul. This is one of the organizations that I have. Where is my level 0? It's right here. So there's an organization, top level, Soul level 0. It has many inherited organizations, many different organizations, position management, job management, everything. So I'm going to create a version for that. Right now, I'm just going to remove every step from here because we're going to build it from scratch. In real world, you don't have to do this. Just modify the existing process. Minus out. Yes, and what error do we have? We'll save it. So now we have a fresh onboarding process based on a business object Soul level 0, right? Now what we'll do is we'll incorporate all these steps in our new business process, starting with these 4. Okay. So the way you do it is go to the related action, go to the business process. In 99% cases, this is the option that you will for most of the things. In 99.1%, you will use this one, which is for the security. For security, you will use this. Rest other, I have never used them because there never has been a need for using them. So you don't need to spend time on these, just focus on this. Right? And even within this, there are a lot of options, but I've only used a few because that is the need. Right? So what you do is go here, go to the edit definition and add in the steps. Remember, you cannot create anything backdated. If I try to do that, I'll get an error. The changes, modification to any business process is the day you make the changes. It cannot be backdated. Right? So it's all fresh. I'm going to add 4 steps for now. I'm going to order all of them as B, 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 and B. I'm not going to add in parallel step inbox order because I want to show you the real use case of how to use it. And when you use it, how does that impact your end user experience? Right now, let's see if what action steps we have. And the action step list that we get here in the specify column comes from here, allowed actions by role. There's no action that we can add outside these 20 items. All right, so let's see, emergency contact was one of our, so we have it on the top, so we can add it here. The group would be employee as self. You can also use pre-employee SL. This is usually a lot of companies in to save some time before the employee is hired. What they do is they send out the credentials to their Workday account, and which once they log in, they will already have these onboarding tasks in their inbox. So before even their hire date kicks in, let's say they're starting November 1st. So they have about few days to finish it, your onboarding. So before they're even hired, all that onboarding information is already in the system. So that respective teams can pick up the right information and use it to their business objective, whatever they want to do. Right? Likewise, we're going to add other steps. Action. Let's see what other we have. Edit government IDs. Let's add that. Self. Okay. The next, let's try to add personal information. Personal. Now, we don't have a personal information action step. How do I verify? I go to the allowed actions by role and I see if there's something called as personal here. No. So sometimes these actions are not defined as type action, but they're defined as type tasks, right? And once you do that, you don't get a drop down because there's limited tasks then you can do in a particular process. Employee self. So instead of edit government IDs, I'm going to change it to change my photo because I remember the edit government ID process is not set up correctly. I'm just going to use maybe a different one, maybe a change veteran status identification. Okay, just for testing purpose. Now I know we maybe instead of this, I'll do veteran status. You have something for name, something for personal. We have already added emergency contact and veteran. Now names is also something which is a type task, not an action, right? So I'll go to tasks. This is gone. I'll add in employee as self. Now the work is not done yet because we have not configured what task we are talking about. So for that, I'll just go ahead and save it for now. I'll get an error for sure because we have not configured the task yet. You see that there are error which says invalid task configuration, step B, step B. So what we're going to do is, now this is not something we'll go on a business process related action. No, this is specific to a step. So that is when we use this column and we'll go to the related actions. Again, business process, configure step tasks. Okay. Click OK. This is where we'll enter what task we are talking about. These are the 5 tasks that I can use, right? So the first one is personal information. I'll give it a name, update personal. This is what the end user will see, the employee will see in their inbox, update personal information. Okay. You can add a series of them if you see there was a plus sign, but we only want one at a time. We won't complicate things. Right. The next thing is, oh, how come we came at the default definition? We were working with sole process, onboarding, so level 0. Oh, did we edit the default one? One second.
Yes.
Oh shit. That's a big mistake. Excuse my language. Sorry. No, this already is here. So where did we add it? I didn't mess up the existing one. That's a good news to me. But where did that change go that we were just doing? I think we were working with this. Wow. Okay. Let's just add those again. I don't know what happened. Edit definition. Oh, it may, okay. Now I get it. So we'll see all the changes tomorrow because my system date is October 28th and the Workday system date is October 27th. We made all the changes effective 27 and we are not seeing it today. So if I try to, I think that is what happened. View definition, but I needed effective dated. You see, I added these steps, but these were added as of effective 28. Like the effective moment is 28, but the entry moment is 27.
Can you change it right here? Right from here?
Even if I do, it won't have any effect on this process.
Oh,
Because like I said, that the change that you make on a process is as of that day.
mhm.
So maybe second. If I look at the process effective 28, I think we'll see everything. There you go. So let's keep it that way. And is uploading government ID also one of the onboarding steps? Yes, it is, Shravan, but we're not using it because I was doing some testing earlier. And that business process, like edit government ID, is a independent business process in its own. So it has some issues. Someone has did some configuration which they shouldn't have done, which is kind of messed up the process. So that's why we're not adding it, just to be, keeping it out of errors. Now we still have one more error because if you notice, we did add the update personal information. Now we're going to add one for your, what was the step? Maintain names, something of that sort. So we'll go to the related actions. Oh, we have to. Oh, okay. How do I look into this? Maybe there might be a way to it. Edit definition. Then I go to one date. Extract, click OK. Click here. Maybe this would help. No. Okay, so I think we'll have to pause here because we'll have to wait for the date to be the next day.